I can't tell you how relieved I am that Chelsea and Cassandra are so competent, and also extremely relevant that Dr. Rocke is back and willing to lead us in song in Houston today, so soon after her recent return from several weeks working in France. I know you're looking forward to singing more of the great songs that were advertised for you this morning, but I can't resist a little focus on France on this special day. C'est aujourd'hui dimanche. Mes amis, je vous prie que nous avions joyeux 14 juillet en bonne fête nationale, which is to say, it is Bastille Day, the 14th of July, a Sunday, the most celebrated holiday of France, commemorating the date in 1789, when a nearly empty prison in Paris was overrun by a mob, which marks the beginning of the French Revolution. Over the past 235 years, this day has become a symbol of the French ideals of liberté, égalité et fraternité, and democracy in general, although many wars, invasions, and various evolutions of the French forms of government have occurred over these times. By comparison, of course, our history has been relatively stable. But as I studied European and American history, politics, and law over the generations of my school, I found common elements in the French Revolution's ideals which echo many of the central values of our own culture, as expressed in our Declaration of Independence. Of course, the first French Republic of 1789 had a contrast in those ideals with the perceived indifference of the ruling class to the poverty and powerlessness of the ordinary French citizen. However, even in those earliest days, the new model of governance did not rise out of a war of independence like ours. It resulted, however, in the literal execution of the royal family and thousands of privileged and educated individuals. But in the ensuing decades, it turns out that slavery was not a divisive issue for France after enslaved Haitians fought their own war of independence and bought their freedom at high cost. That is because in the mainland Republic of France, the royal crown had abolished slavery 500 years before. French politicians, however, were forced to deal with the loss of territorial dominance in Mexico and the sale of the Louisiana colonial holdings. But French exploitation of other colonies around the world persisted into the middle of the 20th century, even as colonial slavery was abolished by France in the mid-1800s. Well, you might reasonably ask why I refer to this divergence of the French and American experience around slavery in the context of this worship service about folk songs. But although I am neither a musicologist nor an anthropologist, I've constructed a hypothesis that the unique experiences of many generations of enslaved African Americans actually resulted in the rich oral traditions of protest and freedom songs in America. We know that many of the music and much of the music and songs in churches for African Americans, including James Weldon Johnston's Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem, had themes about struggle and overcoming oppression. In our own time, in the 20th century, singers like Odetta, Leadbelly, and Harry Belafonte spoke to the African American experience with songs that were folk songs of protest, crying for civil rights. But scholars have told us, it's not just my hypothesis, scholars have told us that those oral traditions sparked a literal resonance in multicultural 20th century America as labor and peace movements adopted themes of relatively simple songs with easily memorized repetitive tunes and inspiring lyrics which have challenged the powerful and the status quo. So we could say with some confidence that 20th century traditions of America's protest and civil rights folk songs are thanks to that earlier African American tradition. But in my own lifetime, in the second half of the 20th century, in the dominant white culture, folk singers and composers like Woody and Arnold Guthrie, Pete Seeger and the Weavers, and Bob Dylan became prominent exemplars of those same traditions. For millions of baby boomers, like me, growing unto maturity in mid-20th century middle-class America, those tunes and lyrics were spread widely throughout the country and the world by mass media, not only radio, but then television, and by the sale of inexpensive vinyl, cassettes, and other kinds of recordings as those evolved. But today we are focusing on one especially popular folk singing group, which was assembled from individual Soho and Greenwich Village performances in Manhattan in 1962 by an astute producer who later became the producer for Bob Dylan. The Peter, Paul, and Mary became a folk supergroup icon of the generational culture over the next 20 years, even into their 30 and 40 years of their performances. This group, which the producer had named Peter, Paul, and Mary, was among the first to give continuing prominence to a lead female folk singer, Mary Travers, who sang alongside two harmonizing men, Peter Yarrow and Noel Paul Stookey. None of them, however, were Unitarians or Universalists, but they definitely inspired lots of us over the years with what they sang. The wide popularity of their performances of over 300 songs recorded over the nearly 50 years of their association was not restricted to their relatively short list of original compositions. Indeed, Bob Dylan, Pete Seeger, John Denver, and many other folk composers benefited from exposure by their thousands of performances and recordings, helping them become popular. Thanks to the skills and talents of Dr. Rocke and Chelsea de Souza, we will be invited to bring our own voices together as we sing a few more of those songs. And I expect that we will be reminded of the contexts in which we heard them over and over for so many years. The music which Peter, Paul, and Mary first performed and recorded in the fervent decade of civil rights and peace and justice activism of the 1960s spoke to my generation with non-threatening socio-political lyrics wrapped in catchy melodies and gorgeous harmonies. This gave them what I think of as mainstream appeal without sacrificing the essential messages. Their first eponymous album introduced the group to a national audience by featuring an easy song by an obscure writer, Hetty West, called 500 Miles, which Dr. Rocke sang just a few moments ago. Now, that is a song which the lyrics actually cross over, because isn't it most likely that Hetty West was referring to the escaping slave who found a way out of their enslavement through taking a train? But it also spoke to the general longing for those who are departing from us, from any cause. But the next group, the album entitled Moving, featured what many believe was their most beloved song, Puff the Magic Dragon, a children's classic which also carried multiple layers of possible interpretation for many of us, even though it was denied by the composer and lyricist. We were treated to the string band's fine presentation of that song as our special music today, and for that I credit Lydia and her organizational ability to come through today. But another great Pete Seeger song, which we would like to feature this morning, is If I Had a Hammer, which was also on one of those first couple of albums. It was almost a standard before I was in high school. And I would ask Dr. Jolie to remind us of that wonderful song which speaks to civil rights in her own voice today. Please. The next Peter, Paul, and Mary album also featured and established their pattern of covering compositions by Bob Dylan with their more comfortable blend of singing voices. You know, harmonious instead of gravel, as they also included his great song, Blowin' in the Wind. But their amazing success by covering this particular song and establishing their alliances with the leaders of the civil rights movement resulted in their invitation by Bayard Rustin, the organizer, to perform that song for the 1963 March on Washington, immediately following Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. I have invited Dr. Rocke to lead us in singing that song together right now, Blowing in the Wind.
All right, now you all can join in and sing, or you can stand, you can dance, you can sit, you can sway. Feel the music. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? Yes, and how many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? Yes, how many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? Yes, how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? How many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many years can a mountain exist before it's washed to the sea? Yes, and how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Oh, how many times can a man turn his head, pretending he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Thank you. For those of us who lived through it, and for those of us who have studied recent cultural history in school, you may not need to be reminded that the history of the civil rights movement in mid-20th century America overlapped with the tragic mistake of our national involvement in Southeast Asia's civil wars in Vietnam and neighboring countries. Dozens of contemporary composers and performers confronted us with not very subtle lyrics, which drew our focus and attention to the transparent injustice of drafting hundreds of thousands of young men to fight and die thousands of miles away in a needless geopolitical exercise, which also cost the lives of 1 million or more Vietnamese and other Southeast Asians. Peter, Paul, and Mary were among those musicians who selectively used their music to speak to the underlying sense of loss, which many of us felt then and feel even now. One especially effective song they performed and popularized was written and also performed as a solo by a young performer, John Denver. Although it has a generic theme of parting and sorrow and a plaintive hope for reunion. I think the song especially spoke to many of us about friends or loved ones who were drafted and sent to Vietnam. I would ask that we try it now, leaving on a jet plane.
All my bags are packed, I'm ready to go. I'm standing here outside your door. I hate to wake you up to say goodbye, but the dawn is breaking, it's early morn. The taxi's waiting, he's blowing his horn. Already I'm so lonesome I could die. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you've never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. There's so many times I let you down. So many times I played around. I tell you now, they don't mean a thing. Every place I go, I'll think of you. Every song I'll sing for you. When I come back, I'll wear your wedding ring. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. Now the time has come to leave you. One more time, let me kiss you. Then close your eyes, I'll be on my way. Dream about the days to come when I won't have to leave alone. About the times I won't have to say. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again.
Biographers have noted that Peter, Paul, and Mary had reached their maturity in their late 30s and early 40s with their financial success and wide recognition. But in their maturity, they recognized that they wanted to cut back from 200 or 300 or more performances a year to a more sustainable 50 or 60 nights on the road per year, to enjoy family life, as well as limited performing and recording. They also began to renew their individual interests in composing and recording solo albums. One of the most successful songs of the early 1970s was Noel Paul Stookey's song he titled "There Is Love," which is also called the wedding song. The song is particularly nostalgic for many of us because I know it was used in many baby boomer weddings of that decade. And so I'd like us to hear it now. There is love.
He is now to be among you at the calling of your heart. Rest assured this troubadour is acting on his part. The union of your spirits here has caused him to remain. For whenever two or more of you are gathered in his name, there is love. There is love. Well, a man shall leave his mother, and a woman leave her home. They shall travel on to where the two shall be as one. As it was in the beginning, is now, and till the end. Woman draws her life from man and gives it back again. And there is love. There is love. Oh, the marriage of your spirits here has caused him to remain. For whenever two or more of you are gathered in his name, there is love. Oh, there's love. There is love.
Before we close, I want to acknowledge the wonderful gifts that Dr. Rocke and Chelsea de Souza and the string band have brought us today. I really want to thank you. And especially I want to acknowledge that I would not have chosen this topic without Bunny. Bunny has made this possible today. Thank you. There you are, over that side. Okay, thank you. I think it's important to note that Mary Travers died 15 years ago, but Peter Yarrow and Noel Paul Stookey still occasionally perform at benefits and demonstrations for important causes that they care about. All three of those talented musicians, composers, and performers were motivated for affirmation for themselves, but they were also social justice activists who used their skills and talents to raise the consciousness of our society and the world. They literally used the tools they had, the figurative bell and hammer, but most of all, the literal songs they wrote or borrowed, to ring and sing out the love between their brothers and sisters all over this land. And so our final song to close this service, by Bunny's special request, is Day is Done. And Jolie, if you'll bring us together with that.
Tell me why you're crying, my son. I know you're frightened like everyone. Is it the thunder in the distance you fear? Will it help if I stay very near? I am here. And if you take my hand, my son, all will be well when the day is done. And if you take my hand, my son, all will be well